In this video, we're going to be talking about how we built the strongest computer with all new parts with a budget of $1,000. The most important thing with this type of budget is spending the right amount of money on each part. Things like your RAM, your power supply, and your case should be bought as cheaply as possible to allow more budget for your CPU and your GPU. Considering some GPUs sell for over $1,000 by themselves, you'll be surprised at how strong a computer we built with this $1,000 price range. And don't worry, we'll have all the benchmarks at the end of the video. With any build, you almost have to start out with your case. Most modern cases don't substantially affect your system's performance and are more based on personal preference. But with that being said, you need to make sure it does not eat into too much of your budget. It would be much better if you took that $50 off of that case that you're going to buy and then put that towards a solid upgrade of a CPU or a GPU. We would recommend that you do your own research because there are deals on different parts every single day. And if you're patient, you can save yourself a lot of money. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the actual PC build. The LANCOOL 215 comes in two colors. The black one goes for $100 and the Snow White version goes for $95. The case itself has great airflow as well as the included RGB fans. This tempered glass mid-tower ATX case will go great with our GIGABYTE B550M DS3H motherboard. This motherboard will not only fit well in this build, but will work great with future upgrades. Along with Gen 4 NVMe support, this motherboard also comes with Gigabit LAN and USB 3.2. With all these great features and a low price, this is exactly the type of motherboard you need to have in your build. To go with this motherboard, we have the Ryzen 5 5600G. The CPU comes with 6 cores and 12 threads and a 4.4 GHz max boost. This will be more than enough for almost any title you're trying to play. Also, the price of the CPU is very impressive considering how new it is. The CPU will also go great with 16 gigs of DDR4 Corsair Vengeance LPX RAM. It's clocked in at 3200 MHz, and this RAM will not only be able to handle gaming, but background tasks as well. This is one part of the build that you cannot downsize. 16 GB is the minimum you should have in any gaming computer at this price point. But with future upgrades in mind, this motherboard does support up to 128 GB of RAM. With the type of games that you're going to be playing on this computer, you're going to need a decent amount of space to download all your favorite games. The PNY CS1030 1TB M.2 will allow you to store quite a few games. It's only PCI Gen 3, but depending on the current sales of Gen 4 M.2s, you should be able to find something close at this price point. We would not recommend buying normal hard drives for gaming. Those are fine for normal files and pictures, but downloading and running games will be a lot slower compared to an average or even below average M.2. Before we get into graphics cards, we need a power supply that will not only handle this graphics card that we have, but has enough power for possible upgrades in the future. The Thermaltake Smart Series 700W 80+ certified power supply will be more than able to handle the power needed to run this computer. Now for the most important part of any gaming computer, the graphics card. For this, we have a few options you're able to pick from. The RX 6600 is going to be the main focus of this build. Just because it's not an NVIDIA card doesn't mean that it's not insanely powerful for the price. With that being said, if you're willing to buy a used GPU, you'll be able to find a much better price to performance card. We made a chart that divides the current price by its time SPI score. Brand new cards are at a slight disadvantage with the exception of the RX 6500 XT. But for a build at this price point, we'd like to go for something a little stronger. That's where the RX 6600 comes into play. If you want to buy a used GPU, something like the GTX 1070 would be a great option. Although it's not as strong as the RX 6600, it's $130 cheaper. Don't get me wrong, this is a new build. A GPU is the only thing that we would recommend buying used. If you want some tips and tricks to finding used PC parts, click the link in the top right. With all the parts out of the way, we can get into the full price breakdown. Keep in mind that these are the prices that they're available at the time of this upload, so certain prices can be slightly more expensive, or they could be on sale, which could affect the price slightly. This is a well-balanced computer, with all the money spent in the right places. If you want the best computer within your budget, follow the percentage of the budget we use on each part. Now we can go through some of the benchmarks that you could expect when using this brand new computer. This chart shows all the benchmarks that we tested for this computer at 1080p at a variety of different settings. First, we have Elden Ring. You should expect an average FPS of 87 on medium settings with a 1% low of 54 frames per second. Second, we have Call of Duty Warzone, in which you should expect an average FPS of 98 frames per second on ultra settings and a 1% low of 75. Feel free to pause the video to look at all the other games we did not go over. If you choose to go for a used GPU like the GTX 1070, you could expect around 20% lower frames, but at a nice discounted price. You can also use that newfound money on other things such as peripherals.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel for future content.